Cool.
Guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. This is Tech Lounge, where we talk about everything related to tech careers and tech businesses in Nigeria. We thank all our listeners who have been with us on the previous episodes of Tech Lounge. We know it's been a minute since we last had a section, but I mean, we needed to take some break to rebrand the entire Tech Lounge experience. While hoping to continue to deliver interesting and insightful tech-related content to you all. So once again, welcome to the new Tech Lounge. And we're excited about the events and the topics and sessions we'll be unraveling in the weeks and days to come. Today's episode, we're talking about buying and investing in crypto assets, and we're considering the matters arising. Again, everybody would agree that investments and trading in crypto assets has become a phenomenon that has swept the entire world by some form of surprise. So we thought it's necessary to have a session where we just talk about the crypto markets generally in Nigeria, and then while highlighting some of the nuances in the market. So, Dayo, it's good to be back on Tech Lounge. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. It's been a while, and I'm sure I've received a lot of messages from people asking us when we are going to have another session and whatnot. And we have to take, like you said, the motion needed break to rebrand. And I'm sure some of our listeners would have seen some of our activities on social media and received some of the emails that we've sent to them to keep them updated. Once again, we thank you for joining us today, for tuning in to listen to our podcast on this YouTube channel. So, yeah, like Dami said, the crypto market is an interesting market. It's a fast-growing industry globally, not just in Nigeria, I mean globally. And there are lots going on in that market. And I mean, it's no surprise, really, considering the way the global market, the economy of the global market, how unstable it has been, and the fact that currencies are falling, right? And inflation and whatnot is affecting the global market. So digital currencies are coming to actually kind of give people an alternative means of exchange, right? Not without its challenges, obviously, but again, it has given the opportunity for people to still be able to trade and then using without running losses. And yeah, it's been very, very interesting. Recently, I'm sure you guys will have seen the news about Ethereum. It's caught up and it's doing really, really well in the market, right? Some are even saying that in the global market right now, the value of Ethereum in the global market is it's almost as valued at the same level as companies like Coca-Cola and the likes, right? Which is quite interesting, right? I mean, the global Ethereum market as a whole, as the volume of transactions as a whole, as of right now, will be about $4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. That is massive, right? And then you see, it doesn't. I mean, again, another interesting part of it is that you see cryptocurrency, blockchain technology affecting different sectors. When we talk about finance sector, the legal sector, health, and a whole lot, it's very interesting, right? You see concepts like decentralized finance, with this new ledger system that even some of these major banks right out there, they are now looking at making use of blockchain technology, these digital ledgers, right, decentralized ledgers to provide faster and more secure financial services to people, right? It is quite interesting. And then you see nations talking about, I mean, central banks of different nations talking about adopting a digital currency. You see a nation like China, they talk about the yuan, right? Again, subject to regulatory compliance and all those things, right? But you see what they're talking about adopting a digital yuan, right? Which should be very interesting to see. Even in the US, you see companies like Facebook, they've made attempts. I mean, they've announced that they are working on a Libra projects, although as of right now, the US government have not really given them permission. So again, a lot is going on in that market, and it's a market that we should all be paying attention to. Dami, you would agree with me?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you've captured it perfectly. There's a lot of increase in trading globally. Some central banks are already considering digitalizing their currencies and things like that. And I think we need to bring it home to Nigeria here and speak generally about the trends we are witnessing in the Nigerian crypto markets. And I think I'd like to approach it from four subheads. Number one is the fact that Nigeria so far has become the biggest market of crypto trading in Africa, right? Some time, some few weeks ago, it was reported that Nigeria leads other African countries in Bitcoin transfer. Nigerians were transferring or transacting about $8 million weekly. I mean, if you converted that to Naira, that's about $3.6 billion, and that's even more than the monthly allocation of some states in Nigeria. So imagine Nigerians transacting what's in the volume some of the states in Nigeria get weekly in Bitcoin. That's humongous. I mean,
that's huge.
When you think about it, it's unthinkable. That means a lot of people are looking at alternatives to the traditional financial institutions, which then takes me to the second point, i.e., Nigerians are beginning to circumvent traditional rules surrounding the financial institutions, and they are beginning to prefer to bypass the traditional banking system, right? And this is driven by two things. Number one, the associated low cost of transactions. So imagine it's cheaper to send $1 million, for instance, or $1 million to your friend in the UK using crypto than it is using the proper banking channel. So you probably spend thousands of Naira to send that sum of money using your bank than you would rather spend if you used crypto. And that's a very valid use case. That means I can perform cross-border transactions and not have to incur some more charges, And there's also the devaluation of the Nigerian Naira, right, which has made alternative sources of investments very attractive options to Nigerians. So we're looking at ways of beating the inflation, ways of hedging investments against constant devaluation of the Nigerian Naira. So some analysis here, right? In July 2020, it was reported that within 4 months, Ethereum had grown at about 262%, right? As of September, right, it's recorded an additional 18%, right? So that means between let's say March and September, Ethereum has gained about give or take, so that's about 80%, right? If we look at for instance, I'll pick a random stock company in Nigeria, right? So for instance, MTN, right? MTN as of July, it was trading at about 115 Naira per share. Today, I mean, as of yesterday, being Friday, it closed at about 130 Naira per share. So that's just about 10% gain. That means you could have gained a lot more on your investments if you put in funds in Ethereum within the same period than you would have if you invested in the Nigerian stock exchange market, especially if you picked a stock like MTN, for instance. So those are options for people. That's why it's becoming so attractive to Nigerian investors as well. In fact, according to some report, Nigeria currently ranks 8 out of 154 countries in the use of cryptocurrency globally. And that's mind-blowing. That means a lot of people are adopting this technology. And that's even in the absence of a regulation, which then takes me to another factor that's driving adoption in Nigeria, which is I think more recently that's a new trend, maybe not a factor driving. So a new trend is the SEC regulation, which we are still going to talk about later on the show. But again, that's also a very trendy topic in the Nigerian crypto market. So that's the dynamic, Dio. It's becoming very, very open. A lot of people are participating. There's a business case, there's a use case, and it seems more like a very smart move for folks. But again, we would also talk about the downsides, which are the security issues, the fraud issues and the likes. We cannot overemphasize those as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dami. As interesting as it is and as exciting as it is, right, it's not without its challenges, right? And again, that is why we see the Nigerian, the SEC coming up with regulations to try and regulate that sector because of the volatility and the fact that it is quite unstable, right? And it's quite decentralized, right? So again, some will argue that is also one of the things that make it interesting.
Absolutely,
again,
yeah, definitely.
Also something to pay attention to in terms of disadvantages, right? Some of the challenges, right? But I believe with time, we'll move forward. But in Nigeria as a whole, right, you talk about some of the factors that, the factors driving the adoption, right?
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter the other day where one of the founders of the cryptocurrency platform, right, Timmy, was saying that in his speech to YC, as a matter of fact, that he was telling them quite boldly, that unlike in the United States, that he doesn't even think they need it as much, that he considers it as a necessity in Africa, right, because of the value of our currencies. You understand? So it's giving people the opportunity to trade in digital currencies where the value can be a bit the value is better than the local currency, right? It gives them some sort of bargaining power, some sort of leverage in terms of cross-border transactions, right? It gives them that advantage, right? So you've seen people migrate to that because they've seen that keeping Naira is worthless, right? It doesn't have as much value as keeping a digital currency, right?
Absolutely,
and then,
at this point.
That when they want to pay for stuff or do cross-border transactions, they have a currency that is stable, a currency that can stand or match, that can, actually give them the opportunity to trade, right, seamlessly without all the barriers that some of the challenges that you face, having to go into the bank, some of the that these banks charge. Those things are not really there, right? Although some of the platforms where you trade on, they have their commission and whatnot, but if you consider the commission, it's still nothing compared to what the traditional banks are charging.
Yeah.
Right? So because of that, we are in a society that people are very careful about their money. People don't even have enough, right? Out of the little that they have, you are charging them what's called, you're charging them a lot for some of those transactions, right? So you see people move away from that to say, you know what, you're not going to charge me. I'm not going to sit down and allow you to charge me when I have an option where I can do this transaction as a reduced or a significantly lesser fee. You understand? That is one of the and then you also need to give credit to platforms like Bitcoin, Patricia. They are doing a lot in terms of passing out information, sharing knowledge to people, and trying to encourage Nigerian markets, right, and giving them information about cryptocurrency, or giving them updates, you receive newsletters telling you what's going on. So again, the knowledge gap,
the awareness.
The awareness, right? People are becoming aware. People are not knowledgeable about compared to where we were 2-3 years ago, right? So because of that, and then people, because of some of these platforms, right, they've seen that some of these platforms, some of their co-founders, people behind those companies, right, they are people that have built some sort of goodwill in the market, right? So because of that, people are beginning to trust the platforms. You understand, right? So that's also one of the factors contributing to the adoption, right? You also see what's it called? Although again, the downside is that some posters are also taking advantage of it, really, to say it gives them the chance. We recall during this Hush Puppy, Ramon or whatever his name is, right? That same period, right? That they were saying that I think the FBI caught about 2 of them. The other guy was able to trace the money, right? Because the guy has actually invested in some sort of digital currency, right? Those are some of the challenges, right? So those are some of the challenges, but again, that is also one of the reasons for some of the factors driving the adoption, right?
The anonymity,
Yeah. Again, so that's why we're saying that it's important that the regulators come in, but again, they should not stifle innovation.
And I think it's a good point to then talk about the regulation, right, Dayo? So
I
just last month, the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission published a statement declaring its intention to regulate crypto assets in Nigeria. I mean, it took a lot of people by surprise, but I think we need to then have some background about the regulatory landscape, in Nigeria. Let's trace it back a bit. So if you go back 2017, when the CBN first issued a circular saying, I don't know cryptocurrency. It is not a legal tender. If you touch it at your own risk. It even discouraged most Nigerian financial institutions from contracting with virtual currency exchanges and the likes. And then subsequently, the NDIC, Nigeria's Deposit Insurance Commission, also issued a similar statement saying, oh yeah, if you invest in cryptocurrency, you may not enjoy the same consumer protection frameworks out there in the traditional financial institution. And then subsequently, the Securities and Exchange Commission then came out to say, nah, guys, you see, it is not a recognized investment asset. You're doing it at your own risk, yada, yada, yada. Now, that was the position of the Nigerian regulators. So with a SEC statement, they've gone to, nah, nobody should touch it, to, oh yeah, I think I can't do without these guys, so I need to regulate in a way. And for me, when I say this, because I don't think the SEC, because if you've been very familiar with the space, you'd realize that a SEC statement is consistent with the strategy of the commission to be very innovative, especially with the wave of fintech all over the world. Now, so last year, they commissioned a committee to research on the adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrency in the Nigerian capital markets and the like. So one of the recommendations of the committee was to number one, then to create for the SEC to create like a regulatory sandbox environment where it could test fintech products in the capital market, just under a very controlled environment, pending the issuance of a detailed regulation, right? And since that last year, SEC already developed a portal where you could just test your fintech innovation in the capital market. So this year, the SEC has now gone out fully to declare its intention to regulate fintech. And it's very interesting, Dayo. It's very interesting because what this does is, number one, it just has confirmed, some of the convictions of the crypto evangelists, like they like to call themselves, about the validity of the crypto industry itself, and the credibility of the industry. Because you see, a lot of traditional investors in the financial markets generally would be of the view that, well, I don't know crypto. I don't want to touch crypto. I can't understand it and the likes, right? And that before now, if you were trading in crypto, you probably, if you were advising people to buy crypto, especially these old Nigerian HNIs that are very traditional in their approach to investment, they'll be looking at you as if you're speaking German or some foreign language that they do not understand, right? But the thing with the new regulation is that, with some credibility then comes some confidence in the sector, i.e., consumers are afforded some level of protection. There's some level of stability in terms of you can predict the outcome of investments and the outcome of key participants in the sector. And obviously, which would then lead to much more investment in the sector, would see deployment of more technology and the likes, But again, it remains to be seen how the SEC would fully regulate the space, because what it has published merely is just some form of statement. But if regulation is really needed, it will curb some of the security and AML, CFT, and financing of terrorism and money laundering concerns that you mentioned. The issue of anonymity will not even be to no arise, because ultimately, right, participants will not be able to transact without declaring their true identity. But I like the point you made about the regulation not stifling the innovation. And I think the SEC also realizes this because, I mean, in the statement, they clearly mentioned that their intention is not to hinder the pace or development of innovation in the space. So I think there's going to be some level of balance, you know. But I mean, we want to see how this is going to play out eventually, Dayo.
Yeah, I mean, it should be interesting to see, Dami, right? See the direction in which the regulation will take, right? It's a bold step. The SEC is a bold step they are taking, right? And we have to give them credit, right? For thinking
Absolutely, they
that
deserve.
manner. But again, you know, we also can come to. I mean, we can agree that they are somehow forced to actually make that move because they've seen the volume
Yeah,
of transactions going on in that sector, right?
yeah.
They
They
need
had no
to,
option,
they need
to be
to do
honest. They had no
something,
option
right?
because I mean, a lot of Nigerian consumers were becoming exposed to it a lot more. You know, a lot of people were beginning to. A lot of people are doing these things anyways. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
we saw with that regulation, people will do it.
yeah.
And
So
question
the
is,
earlier
can
you
you
accept,
capture the value in the economy? So you might as well regulate it and get some value for the economy as well, as opposed to turning a blind eye completely towards it. So I mean, you can regulate it cautiously in a way that doesn't expose your market to systemic risks and shocks. But at the same time, you'd be getting some value as well, you know?
yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I mean, while we're on that, you know, we are talking about the need for regulation. I mean, whilst we've addressed, I mean, we've established the need for regulation. I mean, you would agree with me that some of the reasons, I mean, it's because the regulators have seen the risk associated with trading in these cryptocurrencies, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons why they thought, okay, we need to regulate the sector, right? I mean, when you
Mhm.
consider the liquidity risk, the fraudulent activities of certain individuals in that sector, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of transactions being done that you can't trace. You can't. I mean, you mentioned identity, right? You
Yeah.
can't identify the people behind these transactions, right? It gives people some people, right? It gives them some sort of loophole for them to take advantage of, right? Which they are doing, really, right? Which they are doing. So there's that risk, right? That again, some people are scared of the fact that you know I put my money in this sector. It is not. It's highly unstable, right? I mean, at the same time, the risk of settlement, right? At the point where I'm supposed to
Yeah.
get my money, will I get my money? I mean, and all those things. I saw, was it today? One of the cryptocurrency platforms released an update regarding this settlement thing, right? To say, I mean, to try and reduce the period in which they get settled, right? So
Mhm.
I mean, that probably that shows that, I mean, the time frame for settlement is something that still needs to be worked on, right? So while in the process, so you'll be surprised that money get lost, right?
Mm.
Some people will not be able to recover their funds. They won't be settled, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, those things happen really. I mean, we've talked about so a settlement risk, and again, we can't overemphasize the liquidity risk involved, right? Because it's unstable. Tomorrow, today, it's although one thing would also say is that to an extent, there's been some sort of consistency, right? But it doesn't change the fact that there's still that liquidity risk in that sector. Again, you also need to talk about the data breach. I mean, you recall that about some time on Twitter where some hackers hacked into the account of some very powerful individuals, right?
Yeah. We're
People
asking
to
them to send their,
send their
their
again. I
crypto
mean,
assets. Yeah.
just so the activities of those people the activities were centered around digital currencies. You understand?
Yeah.
So it goes to show that it's an area that some people are trying to take advantage of because they see and then considering the volume of transactions, volume of money, I mean involved, right? You tend to see that if given the chance, I mean, it can cripple the economy if some of these funds are lost during transactions and all that, right? So again, not just money, right? The data breach involved, we are talking about the data of people, right? I mean, stuff like that. If they could hack the accounts of some of these powerful people, right, they could potentially hack the accounts of anybody that's trading on some of these platforms. You understand? So
Absolutely.
some of
Absolutely.
those things, some of those things are some of the challenges that I mean we when we talk about liquidity risk, it affects the economy really because
Yeah, and it can cause significant damage to the wider economy. You know,
yeah, I
imagine
agree with you. It can
it
cripple
can
the
ruin an
economy
economy if not
if
properly
before. I mean, if a large sum of money cannot be traced,
yeah,
it's definitely cripple the economy. Right.
and
So
it can,
again, what?
you know, in very volatile environments like Nigeria, imagine people using cryptocurrencies to fund terrorism in the very volatile parts of the country, you know. So those are also very significant concerns. And we hope that with the new regulation, we'll have some form of clarity as to how these crypto platforms would operate. And the good thing is it applies to companies, whether you're in Nigeria or not, you know. And I think that's very significant because you see that most of these platforms where Nigerians trade, I think there are only few of them that are localized, you know, because Nigerians still use foreign platforms to conduct their crypto trading activities. So it's also good that the regulation is outward looking and it seeks to bring everybody into the regulatory net of the SEC, you know, you know. So I think well because I mean we'll continue to witness significant growth, but I think it's also important for us to talk about the opportunities in the industry. I mean, while we focused on the risks, we've talked about the risk. I think there are also opportunities, especially from a career perspective. I mean,
Yeah, for
what I
professionals.
thought.
Yeah. You recall that I mean I mentioned um earlier that um, we've seen the impact of cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology in different sectors, right? I mean, we've talked about in the financial sector, they are already considering having digital, a national digital currency in some of these countries, right? Like Canada, China, and the likes. You understand? So you see some
Yeah,
of these banks, financial institutions talking about a decentralized ledger because they believe that with the use of blockchain technology, it will make the service they provide to be faster, more secure, right? And and stuff like that. It gives them that luxury to transmit data and to ensure transaction volume in a very decentralized way, but with a certain level of control, sort of, right? It's more secure. I mean, because it's largely encrypted. You understand? So
yeah,
it's very interesting. Again, you also hear concepts like smart contracts, where I mean, when it comes to smart contracts, you're already talking about the legal space. You understand? And I
hmm
mean, we've seen some of these firms looking at adopting this technology in some of in providing some of the legal services. You understand? So you tend to see lawyers now paying attention to that sector, right, and trying to also build their competence in that sector, in that area. So it's very interesting that it's transcending across sectors. You understand? Blockchain
yeah,
technology, cryptocurrency. That's so for professionals, right? If you're in finance sector, if you're in legal sector and the likes, health sector, you should it gives you an opportunity. Building competence in that sector positions you for growth and positions you to be a leader in that sector to be able to provide better services to people that you're offering your services to. You understand? It gives you that advantage. Again, you cannot overemphasize the importance of the engineers, right? I mean, you have to give credit to
absolutely. Yeah,
some of the engineering talents we have around. I mean, you see companies like Bondru, Bitcoins, the engineering talents behind those companies are Nigerians, right? So it also goes to show that the market is big. So there'll be more companies
and the
coming
market
out.
is growing. Yeah,
The market is growing, yeah. There'll be more companies coming out to provide these services to people, right? So it gives people, engineers that can build this technology, that can make use of this technology, this blockchain technology, people that can build solutions around it. It gives them a large opportunity for them to take advantage of that market. You understand? To position themselves in that market, right? So it's very interesting for programmers, for engineers, and business developers in that sector. It's not just engineers. I mean, business developers too, right? I mean, like companies now will start looking at the possibility of integrating blockchain technology, cryptocurrency into their platform. Some of these fintech that we have around. As a matter of fact, it's something that we at Swipe.ng we are considering that at certain points we would integrate it because we believe that it helps, this cryptocurrency helps with cross-border transactions. Right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I think some financial institutions already use blockchain in facilitating payment transactions.
Yeah,
Anyways,
and I'm even saying that. I'm even saying that some of the traditional banks should also pay attention to it. Right? They should
yeah,
try to take advantage of it and position themselves and make it
exactly,
possible.
because they may
Like,
capture significant value.
yeah, absolutely. I think the
They
number
want,
of people make use of their services, some of the number of customers they have, right? They need
yeah.
to start thinking about solving problems for their customers, right? One
Mm.
of the ways to solve problems to their customers, right, is to actually provide someone, make it possible for these people to do cross-border transaction, making use of a digital currency, right? But again, maybe perhaps after the regulations have come in, right, they can now try to do that. You understand, just to ensure security and all that, right? But
Yeah.
again, they should pay attention to or try to partner, right, with some of these platforms, some of these cryptocurrency trading platforms we have around, right? So we'll be seeing more of that. I reckon we'll be seeing more of that anyway as we go. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, yeah. So you've captured it all. More growth. Financial institutions should not sleep on it. Like they can't even sleep on it because I see the interesting thing that so
Yeah.
one would have expected that maybe the CBN would have been the first to perhaps regulate this, right? But now that it has gone to the remit of the SEC, it's going to be interesting how this competition would play out because you see, the SEC is in a way creating a parallel payment and remittance industry outside the purview of the CBN. So again, that's a direct competition against the activities of the traditional financial institutions and even fintech companies, that are already existing in the Nigerian market. And I think that ties into the future of the crypto market in Nigeria. Number one, what I expect to see a proper regulation following the SEC statement, a regulation that just sort of captures how players in the market would operate, practically, because the statement is still very high level. There are still so many details that are left unsaid. I would expect to see that the SEC will still issue a much more detailed regulation on how to register, what to do, the standards and procedures that these companies have to put in place and things like that. That's on the one hand on the regulation. On the second hand, we expect that there'll be a lot more investment. I think we touched on that earlier. With more investment so investment could come in form of maybe foreign direct investment by foreign companies or partnerships. So the sector is going to become a lot more deepened, especially because we'll see the deployment of many more technologies. And then obviously with more technologies comes an increased adoption rate. We then have a lot more users of crypto because, again, people will feel very comfortable investing or trading in crypto asset because it's regulated, and the consumer experience would then change. The attitude would change. You would begin to see a significant paradigm shift in the mindset of people towards favoring the use of cryptocurrency. And I think, who knows, in the future too, we may see CBN saying it wants to roll out its digital currency, just as China and the EU are both considering. But those are my predictions. So that means right on the security aspect too.
Would you advise anyone to invest in digital assets?
Well, that's a tough question. You know why it's a tough question? Because a few months ago during the lockdown, there's this leader of a Nigerian user blockchain group. I refuse to mention his name. He was asked on a very popular financial blog in Nigeria that what stocks would he invest in, right? Would he invest in crypto assets? And the guy said no. And I was surprised because I was thinking, okay, this is the number one advocate of adoption of crypto assets in Nigeria. And you're saying openly that you wouldn't even pick crypto assets as investment option. I'm like, okay, so what are you saying exactly? So back to your question, Dayo, if that guy could say that he wouldn't invest in crypto assets, I think I'll retain my conservatism for now, Obviously, I did consider it at some point, just trying to diversify the investment portfolio and the likes. But I still took a very much more cautious approach, especially because it's even super expensive, anyways. I mean, it's really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal note, right? Again, first off, I always tell people that obviously the choice is yours. That's what I tell anybody that asks me, right? The choice is yours.
Yeah.
But again, I also tell them that in the event that you now decide to do it, right, you have to go with platforms that you can vouch for, and you can actually when you carry out your due diligence, right, you see their track record, right, you see that okay, you can trust them with your funds, right. Perhaps you look at backing them, perhaps look at the work they are doing, what they've done, and a whole lot of things like that. Right? I can mention a few of those platforms that I think that people can probably trade on, right? But I'm not going to mention any, obviously, because
of course we are not recommending. Obviously,
I'm not recommending,
in fact, I think those platforms are the biggest boys in town right now in terms of their revenues, especially from charges and fees well, right? And the likes.
Really well. So that's my advice to anybody, to our listeners, right? It's very interesting, and as we go forward, we'll be giving you updates on what's the interesting things going on in that sector. We are all on lookout. We are all excited about the possibilities, right? Especially for cross-border transactions, right? It should be easy to send money to someone outside Nigeria, and it should be easy to receive money from people outside Nigeria, right? And if cryptocurrency is going to solve that problem, right, or at least reduce the gap, right, then it's a welcome development, right? So that's my 2 cents on that.
Right. Thank you so much, Dayo. And I think with that, we've come to the end of the show today. We hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. We've talked briefly about the crypto market in Nigeria, the things to look out for, the topics trending, and things like that. We hope to see you next time on the show. But before we go, we'd like to tell you that now we've opened our social media channels. Make sure at the end of this show, you subscribe to our channel, and you can also catch up with us on Instagram at techlounge_ng. Same as Twitter. Twitter is also at techlounge_ng, and then on LinkedIn at techlounge. We look forward to your following, and we hope to continue to share with you interesting insights on the tech space in Nigeria and tech areas and opportunities. Dayo, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Dami. Also, if you have questions for us, feel free to send us questions. We make use of our social media platforms, and we'll attend to the questions as soon as we can. Right? We'll be happy to hear from you, and you can always give us feedback. And as we go forward. Right? Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for joining. And once again, it's been a pleasure having you listen to us at the Tech Lounge. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.